start by showing the cards here. First off, I have a fan on over here. Is the sound affecting the volume of my voice? Like, can you hear me okay from here-ish? Is that a little better? Okay, cool. Still getting some airflow down. Okay, good. I'm glad. So here is the first card from the deck we usually use, Mother Peace. It is the Two of Wands. I'll start just by holding it up here for a bit so you can just take in what you see, what you perceive from what this image could be. And we'll break down the meaning of the card more throughout class, but we'll start with just your own interpretation of the visuals. And then as you see this card, we'll take a deep breath through our solar plexus, through our core and belly as we just look at this. Breathing it in, allowing the belly to expand. And then exhale out the mouth. And I also drew one card from the Wild Unknown tarot deck. Instead of humans, she uses plants and animals. And this is the Empress and that beautiful tree. So you can take a couple moments to look at this and locate or maybe acknowledge any feelings that come up, what this image inspires for you. And then as we look at it, let's take a breath, this time through our third eye. So as you inhale, really notice the length of your spine and the very center of your forehead. Notice your exhale. Great. So we'll lead into a meditation here. You can do this seated on any props you might have, or maybe you lie down if you feel that that is better for you. We'll just come into our bodies, maybe some wiggles, some shakes to get there. You might shift your weight from the left to the right to notice your feet. Good, and we'll ground down however the legs are. Hands can come on the laps or knees. And locate your shoulders and your hips and find all the space in between there. You might allow your eyes to close or the gaze to soften. And we'll take a few breaths, starting with our breath at the bottom of us, so wherever we connect with the floor. Just noticing all parts of the body rooting down onto this floor beneath you. Take a few breaths here. Good. Locate your hips and pelvis and take a deep breath into this space, widening the lower belly. Notice the exhale and really sink down through your tailbone as if you're dropping an anchor. With your next inhale, notice the back of your spine up to the middle of your shoulder blades. Take a couple moments to feel the heart center, noticing from the back of the heart, wrapping around to the sides of the rib cage, and then noticing the front of your chest. Just take a couple moments to feel this entire space your lungs, the ribs, the collarbone, the sternum, the heart. Breathe here for 3 deep intentional breaths. Good. With your next inhale, notice the back of your neck and your throat, and soften the jaw. You might even open the mouth a bit and brush your lips and teeth with your tongue. Good. Softening in the cheeks, the temple, the eye sockets, the forehead, the ears. Feel the crown of your head. Breathe in, feel yourself grow a bit, a little higher to the sky. And then exhale, allow your awareness to just wash down your body back to the floor. You can take a few more breaths, bringing that awareness up and out. And then the exhales wash you back down to the floor. Kind of breathe at your own pace here, in your own way. And just stay centered and focused in this present moment, and our bodies right here. There's nothing else that needs to be done right now. And as I briefly break down the meanings of these cards, you might choose to stay right here in this meditation position. But you're also welcome to move if you need to. So let's start with the Two of Wands. In the Minor Arcana, with Wands, we deal with the element of fire. If you practiced astrology at all, you can think of the energies behind the signs of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. This element of fire used in these sorts of esoteric practices represents ambition, action, doing, making things happen. And with the number of 2, that represents duality, reflection, two forces coming together, or two forces potentially being opposed. In the Two of Wands, these archetypes of both the number and the element can be both. There can be moments of harmonious work being done together, and then there can be moments of conflict. When we're moving from the Ace of Wands, which is like the seeds being planted, you're still in the beginning phases when that idea or the action is just being initiated. And then as you progress deeper to move to the number 2, there's another element that comes in, another factor, rather, another player perhaps. And this might change the course of the original idea or the original action. And that can be both a beautiful thing and a challenge. In this image, we had the 2 women rubbing a stick to create smoke and potentially a fire. But we had one woman casting thought bubbles over the other. So when we have different forces coming together, these forces might be coming from a different place, and we potentially could be projecting over the intention of the action. Or maybe our projections of what the action was going to originally be needs to shift and change when we adapt, when we include more, when we open up and deepen this, whatever the action may be. So we'll break that down a little more. Further throughout class, we can embody it, but to briefly break down what that means is just knowing the 2 and the fire coming together. Action, adding a little more complexity to it. And the second card drawn was the Empress. So that's in the Major Arcana. This is towards the beginning of that journey. Each card in that series works through the Fool's Journey, they call it. So getting through the stages of enlightenment. It's the 4th card in that journey, so we're towards the beginning. The Empress represents the yin side, the feminine side of our caretakers. The Empress and the Emperor work together to represent caretakers when we're in our young lives. It may be literally speaking of childhood, or it may be speaking of being young in the own path that you're on, whatever path that may be. So that we think of the yin side, the contemplative, nurturing listener. It could be a caretaker, it could be a role model, it could be us, we could be the Empress. We could exude this energy outwards to others. So the image had this white silhouette in this dark sky with a little sliver of a moon. So that's good, this great representation of that quietness, of that space holding. And that illuminating pink on the outside is this softness, this warmth, this support. So when we think of these 2 cards coming together, the Empress adds a little bit of nurturing and support to any conflict or complexity that comes up in this 2 of Wands. Let's get back into our own bodies, wherever we positioned them. If you are laid down, let's sit up. We'll bring our fingertips or palms outside of our hips, whatever reaches for you. And then let's drop one ear, let's align ourselves first. Let's get in our spines first. Feel your seat, feel your shoulders. When you press down on the floor, notice any sensations that come up. Good. So feel the length of your spine and your neck. We'll inhale. And then when you exhale, we'll drop one ear towards the shoulder. It doesn't matter which one. Just start on one side. And you might open and close the jaw. Good. And then just notice the side that's lengthening. And notice what happens to those muscles if you dip the forehead down a bit or up, or if you tip the chin up, rather. And slowly explore this side here with intentional movements and guided breath. Really noticing all the sensations and all those connecting points by your ear, by your shoulder, by your spine, and your throat. Good, warming up and exploring here. We'll find somewhere that feels nice and neutral for us between the chin down and up. And stay still in the neck. We'll slowly extend that right arm a little, just the fingertips come to the floor. Sorry, whatever side is opening up. So we just open up just a little more. So the fingertips, and we drop that shoulder. Good, you might hover that hand over the floor here now, and you can make little circles with that arm. So continue to kind of soften and open up and release in the shoulder. You can make your circles go the other way. Maybe you move your wrist as well and the elbow. Yeah, just kind of waking up the energy there. And then we'll bring the palm to face forward. And we'll lift the chin just a little bit, arch through the heart, and breathe in, and exhale through the mouth. Good. We'll come back to center. And just take a moment here from side to side to notice the left and right side of your neck and your shoulders. Inhale. Good. Drop the other ear towards the other shoulder. We'll start here by just getting those gentle, warm up, intuitive motions with our head and neck. Good. Feel free to notice the jaw opening and closing it. Good, and then soften the movements and elongate through that other arm. Just the fingertips come to the floor. Feel the stretch and traction and growth in the shoulder joint. And then you can lift that hand up and begin to make your circles. Kind of notice this shoulder compared to the other one. Can you notice anything different here without judgment? Can you notice that both sides of you are not a complete mirror reflection? Good, palm facing forward, lift the chin up just a little bit, notice the heart, breathe in, open through that channel, and exhale. Good, we'll come back to center, hands on the floor again. Take a couple breaths. Good. Let's inhale the right arm up. Good. Just take a moment to notice each shoulder from side to side, what it feels like when one is lifted, when one is down. Notice the fingers that reach towards the heavens or reach towards the universe, whatever word resonates more with you. And then notice the hand that is connected to your ground. to the floor that you're cohabitating. Good. Press down into the ground with that hand. Lift up even more with the other. Breathe it in. Exhale, side body stretch. You might slide that grounded hand out a little for more stability. You might bend in the elbow joint. And notice your rib cage now. Notice the side body. Notice that right hip. Really root down. And maybe little micro adjustments are made. Maybe the navel hugs in towards the spine, so your core is engaged. Maybe the rib cage opens up. Maybe the heart is lifted towards the sky a little. Maybe it's not. Just kind of notice. You might make little tiny shifts to explore. You might move the neck. You might move the arm and shoulder. Okay, just bring awareness and awakening to all of the parts of the body that do this action, which, spoiler alert, it's most parts of the body. So notice all that takes effort to make this happen in your body. Find some moment or some position, to sink into, to be present with. And we'll take 2 breaths together. In and out. Good. In and out. We'll inhale together and both arms come up. We can pause. Notice the hands. Are they in line with each other? Notice the shoulders. Notice the hips. Notice the seat. Notice your next exhale. Inhale, awareness and the gaze come to the hands. And then exhale, bring them to the heart center. You might lower the gaze or close the eyes, and we'll pause. Notice one side versus the other. Good, let's take a breath together. In and out. Right hand down, left hand up. Pause here for a moment. Good. Feel the duality that exists within yourself. Press down even more with the right hand. Inhale, reach with the left. Exhale, side body stretch the other way. So you can get kind of slow into it. Maybe you go in and out of it a little. Again, we take the beginning here to kind of find it in our own selves, in our own body. Noticing your seat, how the weight's being distributed. Can you even it out like that tree? Allow your roots to spread, to be solid so you can grow tall. Good, we'll take 2 breaths together. In and out. In and out. Good. Inhale to center, both arms up. Pause. Notice the shoulders. Notice the hips. Notice the seat. And whenever you exhale next, when you breathe in, look up to the hands again. Exhale, hands come down, knuckles to the third eye. Pause here at the center of your forehead, feeling these thumb knuckles resting down. ask ourselves what actions that we're taking or are about to take need some nurturing. What actions need nurturing? If there's any plans that you might need a little assistance with. Breathe in here. When you exhale, bring the hands to your heart. Thumb knuckles press into your chest. And another self-inquiry here. How can receiving nurturance make our goals happen? How could receiving support help us in our fiery desires? And we'll take a breath here. Good. Wonderful. Let's straighten out our legs for a bit if they were crossed. Just kind of bring the awareness to this lower part of our body. Maybe some ankle rolls. Good. And then as you're ready, we'll come into a child's pose. We'll take a couple moments to rest and sink into our hips. If a child's pose makes you want to die, I'm so dramatic. If you really don't want to do child's pose, you can lay on your belly, or you can lay on your side. But we'll find something for some stillness. Good. Scan the body. Notice the parts of the body touching the floor. Notice your low back, your sacral area. The Two of Wands is a card of activation. Of elevation. Tune into your own sacral region again, that pelvic area. The center for our pleasure, our sensuality and sexuality, our creativity. the sacral chakra. Breathe into your hips. Your low belly and your thighs. Noticing your glutes. And this sacral energy can be expressed through the Empress too, for she encompasses warmth and fertility. Her strength comes from being gentle and compassionate and loving without binding. No expectations with this love. It is pure support. I listen to quite a few different podcasts in my free time, and multiple of the ones that I listened to this week talked about this Buddhist way of thinking, of viewing everyone in this planet, every living being, as your mother, as a mother, as the mother. The one thing we all have in common, other than the fact that we will leave this mortal coil one day, that great equalizer we all have, we also all came from a mother. We were birthed from a human who incubated us for a bit. So when we view everyone in this existence as that source, as the one that brought us into this world, we help, soften those projections we might put on others, soften this conflict, and see the oneness that we all have and share. The falseness of being different shatters. The falseness of being separate shatters. We see the oneness. So we see that when we get back into this Two of Wands, we can think of this as two different pitches, two different sounds that can come together and elevate one another, like when a chord comes together in music. The amplification of those vibrations when they weave in and out and harmonize. The Empress can help provide the scale in which we harmonize. So as you sink down into your sacral, we'll take a couple more breaths here. We're curling in on ourselves in this child's pose. And then when you're ready, we'll come up to our hands. And we'll come into some cat-cows. So at your own pace, we'll move with our breath. As we inhale, we open up the front of the body, our tailbone and our gaze rise. Exhale for cat. curling in on the spine, dropping the head down. Go back and forth. You might have your toes curled under or not. Good, a couple more rounds of breath. Great. Come back to tabletop. Notice the shoulders and wrists, the hips and knees. With toes curled under, we'll drag that right leg long, lengthening in the knee, and then shift the weight forward and backwards on our toes here, just stretching out in the bottom of the foot and the ankle and that whole surrounding area. Good, and then swap it out and do the other side. Great, just getting some movement there. This practice doesn't really get too much movement with the legs, not a lot of flow, but this just helps get the blood flowing there. Great, we'll come back to center, and then we'll do either a downward facing dog or a forward fold. Just one more stretch for the backs of our legs and for our entire spines. And just shift through this in your own way. We'll give ourselves about 8 breaths total. If you're in down dog, maybe you widen the stance. You could also widen it in forward fold too, actually. And just stretch it out, shake it out for a couple more breaths. Good. And a couple more. And then whenever you're ready, we'll transition to come onto our backs. So if there's any other movement you want to make before we get to a more still part of the practice where we're resting, feel free. And when you get to your back, it might be in stillness. Maybe you drop into something cozy right away. Maybe you wiggle around a little. The knees could come into the chest. You might rock from side to side or front to back. Good. As we're all on our backs, let's all give our knees and our legs a big hug, wrapping our arms around ourselves. You can lift the forehead up to meet the knees. Good, breathe it in. Exhale, drop the shoulders and the back of the head to the floor. Feel length in your neck. You might bring the chin forward and down just a little bit. Good, and then we'll drop the feet to the floor with knees bent. You might lift the pelvis, kind of shake your hips a little, settle it back down. Feel the growth here in your low back. We'll come to a series of bridge poses. If you have a prop nearby and would prefer to do a restorative bridge, you're welcome to set up for that now. And then to get ready for our active bridges, of which we'll do 3 total. First, ground down in the backs of your shoulders. You might even shift your weight from one shoulder to the other and kind of inch the shoulder blades towards each other so the chest opens. Feel the feet on the floor. The hands are by your sides. When you're ready, press into the feet to lift up the pelvis, allowing the knees to be stable. You might interlace your hands, grab a hold of one another underneath the floor here. Feel the pelvis and the thighs in your sacral region for a big inhale. And then exhale, lower slowly to the floor, lengthening through the backs of the low back, backs of the hips. Good, and then we'll do another one. Feel the shoulders, the feet lift up the pelvis. Good, hold and engage and feel this bridge pose. Breathe it in. Exhale, lower. Good. Pause. And we'll do one more. Get up to your bridge whenever you're ready. Engaging in the glutes. Noticing the pelvis, how it reaches and lifts. You might visualize the color orange. Breathe it in. Exhale, lower. Good. And you can drop your knees like windshield wipers from side to side. Okay, let's come to a figure 4 position. We'll bend the right knee to the chest. And then we'll open up in that hip, bringing the right ankle to the left thigh and the right knee outwards. It might feel nice to have the left hand on the hip and that right hand by that thigh or knee for some support and stabilization. It might also feel nice to lift up that left foot from the floor and interlace your hands behind that left thigh or shin. You might stretch out through that leg. You might rock just a little bit from side to side. Maybe exploring all of these ways that your hips can move. Just like the 2 of Wands, getting a little more exploration, a little more complexity to it. Instead of just opening up to it, what happens, how you can express it your own individual way. When you feel nurtured and supported to be yourself, to be with yourself, to work with yourself. Good, one more breath into your hip. Good, and unwind. Let's hug both knees into the chest. And then whenever you're ready, we'll do the other side. So you might set that right foot on the floor to ground down to find your figure 4, or you might have that right foot lifted. Good, another breath. Great, unwind both knees into your chest. Awesome, one more pose from side to side. We'll do spinal twists. So it might be with both knees, or maybe you start with just the right knee to your chest. That left leg can be long on the floor. We'll send either both knees or the one knee over to the left, dropping it down on, maybe we have a pillow for some support. You can bring the gaze over to the right, encouraging that right arm and shoulder to open up and release, noticing the heart, noticing the throat. Take about 5 breaths. Good, last breath. Good, come through center, and then go the other way. Good, another breath. Great, we'll come through center. Excellent. And if there's any other pose you feel drawn to take, maybe like a happy baby, or maybe like a heart opener, maybe a big stretch, like a starfish. Or if you want to grab a blanket or a pillow, feel free to set up however you want to. Release and relax as we close out this practice. And take a couple moments to scan your body. Notice all parts of the body that connect with the floor. Drop down into those spaces. Notice your feet, the soles of your feet, the toes, the arches and ankles, the back of your heels and calves, noticing the lower legs and shins. Unlock the knees. Soften in the thighs, pelvis, womb. The lower abdomens and low back. The entire belly. The side body, rib cage, lungs, heart, chest, shoulders, arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands. Stay with these hands for a bit. All the actions these hands do. All the things these hands move around. What do you create with your hands? What are your hands reaching for? Visualizing your hands connecting with other hands. In an embrace, like a handshake, or more gentle, like holding a hand. This connection, this joining. How intimate connecting hands can be. Especially now, comes from this deep trust. Trust and love and respect. You might choose to keep the hands exactly where they are, or you might place them on your heart or belly, or one on the heart and one on the belly. An invitation to connect these hands to yourself. And if you chose to move them, just notice the resonance of that movement, the reactions of that movement. And whatever part of your own body that the hands are touching, feel the response right there. Any exchange of energy, whether it be heat, maybe you feel the breath move or the blood move and flow. You might feel your own pulse and rhythm. Trust yourself. Respect yourself. Love yourself. Notice the next breath that you take. Allow it to be the deepest, fullest, longest breath of the day. You might even hold the air at the top of your lungs for a bit. Whenever you exhale, notice the release. Elongate the release. Let out all the air. Good. And then whenever you breathe in again, you can invite some movements to the body, the fingers and toes, the mouth. You might open and close the jaw, brush the teeth and lips with your tongue again. Good, you can do a big full body stretch. And maybe you give yourself a hug. And roll onto your side for a moment, curling up in a fetal position. Resting and reflecting. Excuse me. Reflecting on all the messages that came to us through these visuals and the cards, through our own self-inquiry, and through our embodied movements. When you're ready, we'll close out by facing one another to end practice with our hands at the heart. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being. We'll close out with an Om. You can join me in chanting or receive it by listening. We'll inhale and sigh to sync our breaths and then inhale to chant. Namaste.